Hey, everybody, it's your friend James Shaw. Trust you're doing okay. Thanks so much for joining us today. We're doing what we love to do, which is talk to elite people who are doing elite things. And we're going to do that right now with Ryan. How you doing, man?
I am doing fantastic, and I'm super excited to be sharing this with you today.
Well, I'm glad you're sharing it because people are always looking for ways to grow their database, engage with more people, sell more houses, add value to the community. And, farming is something that you loved and are passionate about helping people get good at. It's not a new concept, but you've kind of updated it. You've brought it into our current times. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. But first, will you tell everybody who you are and where you are and a little bit about you?
Awesome. Yeah, I'll give you the condensed version of me. So I'm Ryan Smith. I am from Canada. I'm in the Niagara region. So I grew up in Niagara, and I moved a bunch of times in my real estate career. So I've been licensed for 16 years, and I've moved 4 times in my career. And each time I had to kind of reinvent myself, refigure things out. And along the way, I picked up different strategies on how to really grow my business quickly and effectively. And through all of that, I ended up getting into geographic farming, and I had a business partner a number of years ago. We started farming, and I wanted to take kind of all the strategies that I had as concepts and ideas of things that I've kind of dabbled on and kind of put it into one area. We launched a farm, did really well with it. I ended up selling that part of the business off to him, and I ended up getting into coaching and training. And I really found that my passion was in helping other agents kind of take the mess of ideas and really help them come up with strategies that can work effectively for them. And I now have been coaching and training agents on geographic farming and helping them really show the possibilities of what farming could be.
Well, thanks for teaching the strategy to our group inside of Pivot Shift Ahead. I appreciate it so much. And there's kind of the foundational farming piece that you've built on, but you've broken it into three pieces. So give us the overview of the traditional model.
Yeah. So the traditional model, when I've talked to thousands of agents, and I always ask my question when I start training, and I ask, what is the first thing you think of when you hear of geographic farming? And the first thing is either postcards or door knocking. And most people, when they think of farming, they think of, I just got to send a bunch of postcards and just get my name out there to as many people as possible. And if I do that, then people are going to want to work with me. And the reality is those strategies can work, but they're antiquated and don't work the way they used to work. So you have to think differently than just trying to get your name out there to as many people and hoping that someone puts their hand up and wants to work with you.
So got to get more purposeful. That's what you're saying.
100%. And switching not just the what, but the how and the why we do it. And I think the why is more important than the what. There's a million ways you can do the business, but if you understand why we're doing farming and doing it at a higher level, then you can start to see better and more opportunities through the what and what and how you do that in the business.
Well, then teach us how. Teach us how we do those
Sure.
pieces so that we can better connect.
Yeah, absolutely. So I developed a thing I call the CPR, and it's really the foundation of what real farming is. And after talking to countless agents, really seeing what's working, what's worked, what hasn't worked, what trends were there, and I realized that the three key pieces of really making a farm work is C, P, and R, which is community, positioning, and relationships. And when you understand those three kind of concepts and you learn to put them into a farm, you get a much better response. So do you want me to dive right in and share?
Yeah, do it, please.
Awesome. So the C sometimes sounds like it's easy to understand, but most people focus on the transaction side. So when it comes to their business, they focus on how do I get more transactions? And that's when you think of traditional farming marketing messages, it's I'm the best, call me, just listed, just sold, and they skip over the community part. So you have to put the community first. And when you are community focused, you get a whole different set of responses. You get a whole different connection to the community because you are putting the community ahead of the transaction. So I always tell agents, you need to start with a community focus. And if you're willing to do that, then you can see a lot more opportunities. So you have to be community focused. We can dive into ways to do that in a minute if you want, but you start with the community, and then it comes into positioning. And there's two different ways that I like to talk about positioning. One is as an expert, and one is as an ambassador. So you have to learn to position yourself as an expert. Now, that doesn't mean you have to have sold more homes than anyone else. Doesn't mean you have to be the number one agent. You have to learn to position yourself in a way that people will build trust with you and connect with you on a different level. And again, I can show you to talk about some examples.
Well, and doesn't that come real quick, Ryan? Doesn't that come from putting the community first, right? That when you show that you care more about the people in the community than a transaction.
And that's one of the easiest steps to do. So if you're a brand new agent, you don't have skills yet, maybe you haven't sold a lot of homes, by being community focused, instantly that starts to position you as an expert, which then ties into the next part of the positioning is being the ambassador. And when you become the ambassador for the community, it shifts the dynamics completely, because people see that you're not here to just sell a home or make a bunch of money or be on HGTV and make a bunch of millions of dollars and talk about how great you are. They know that you care about the community and you are there to fight for the community. You're there to be the underdog supporter for the community. And it allows you to reposition yourself and be seen differently in the community's eyes. And when you do that, it ultimately then leads to relationships. And my firm belief is that farming and real estate as a whole, the key foundation should be focused on relationships. The byproduct is selling homes. If we're focused on building new relationships and strengthening the relationships we have, transactions will come. You'll get business. People will work with you if you set yourself up to be community focused, position yourself correctly, and then focus on relationships. It starts to just unlock a lot of opportunity.
I'm sure it does. I mean, that's how we built Pivot Shift Ahead. Pivot Shift Ahead is about the community and about supporting the community and giving back. It's about being an ambassador for people in it and bringing them people like you who can teach them and help them grow. And then ultimately we build relationship through it. I love it. Listen, I don't think most agents have the patience, though, that's required to be successful with this strategy. This strategy takes time. Pivot has existed for 4.5 years, and we've really only had a viable business out of it for 18 months. So it takes time. Wouldn't you have to teach some patience along with this, Ryan?
Yes and no. So one of the things I talk about is you have to think long-term and you have to have a plan for long-term success, but you also have to act short-term. And when you learn to position yourself differently, then you can get results a lot quicker. And again, going back to that traditional way of doing farming, if you've done any training around farming before, you've probably heard it takes 18 months to 2 years to get results. And the reality is, if you do it well and correctly, you can get results very quickly. And for example, my partner, Nikki, she was out door knocking in our neighborhood. She just got a listing from a door knock 3 weeks ago. She met with him, was providing value, community focused, and has now just signed the paperwork for her to get a listing. So you can get results a lot quicker because you're approaching differently. You're going after people in a different way, and you're not just going, hey, look at me, or hey, just are you looking to buy or sell? You connect with people differently. So you want.
Well, she was out doing the work too.
That's
She's out door knocking, getting face to face, talking to people, not hiding behind postcards and Facebook posts.
Exactly.
It's a combo of the two, isn't it?
Yep, 100%. And that's where that think long-term and act short-term absolutely plays into itself. And when you do it right, you can get results quickly. So we do a thing we call a neighbor report. And we have, I think, almost 1,000 people in that report. In my old farm, I think we had about 2,000 people in that report. So I'll give you the example in our farm. When I started the farm with my business partner, I had never sold in that area before. I was new to the area. I moved to the area. I had no connections, no real relationships. We positioned ourselves effectively to be the community ambassadors and the experts. We started our marketing in September. We got our first listing in January. We got our next listing in March. So from January on, in 15 months, we ended up doing 17 transactions in an area that I'd never sold before, had no relationships and no connections, because we shifted what we did and why we were doing it. And we were able to get results when most people are teaching you, well, don't expect to get results for 18 months. And we had over 17 transactions in that time frame.
That's fantastic. Anybody should be happy with that.
Yeah.
Now this is the foundation of your model. The CPR, community positioning relationships. So I think you've built pillars on top of it. So walk us through those.
Yeah, so I call it my scope method, and it's a way to create a balance in what you do. For a lot of agents, they are kind of one-trick ponies, or they have one strategy that they do. And let's just say, use door knocking as an example. Door knocking absolutely can be effective, but if that's all you do, things can change. And COVID was a perfect example of that, where someone may have been an amazing door knocker, or someone may have been amazing at open houses, and then COVID hits, and now all of a sudden your business gets pulled out from underneath and you can't do anything. So you have to learn to have a balance in your business. So I developed the scope method, and I started looking for trends to see what are people doing that's effective, what's working, how to make sure that agents are maintaining their market share and growing. And scope stands for self-promotion, community, online, offline, prospecting, and education. So if you want to have the most success and the quickest success, you need to make sure that the strategies you're doing check those boxes. Now, not every strategy is going to check every one of those boxes, but if you can get as many of those boxes and then layer those strategies on top of each other, you're going to get a lot better results. So when you look through that filter, and if you look at what you're doing and say, am I doing self-promotion correctly? Am I reaching the community effectively? Am I doing online and offline? Am I prospecting effectively? And am I educating? That's when you can start to see gaps and then see opportunities to fill those.
If you nail these, it seems like you could pretty much dominate a farm area. Like you're going to be the person looks at you as someone who cares about the community,
Yep.
who's adding value to them, who's consistent in reaching out. And I've taught that, in order to succeed, we need consistency and values. We need both of those things. We've got to be out and about regularly,
Yep.
but then whatever we're sharing or doing or offering needs to be of some sort of value.
Yep.
We want to reach people on and offline, interviewing local businesses and putting it on your Facebook group, your Instagram, while also highlighting that in the newsletter that goes out to the farm. Like that, those sorts of ways, it just seems like you've mapped it out. So if it's so simple, why don't so many succeed with it?
Because most people don't do it. And they'll try something. And again, I've spoken to thousands of agents across all of North America. And I ask people, have you done farming? What's your experience like? And they'll say, well, I've tried farming. And as soon as I hear the word try, then I know that they've dabbled in it. I don't say it to them, but I'm like, that's not trying farming. That's failed marketing. People will try a few things. They'll try something, do it for a month or two, and then go, I'm not getting the results. Or the other mistake that a lot of agents make is they go too big and they have a fear of missing out, and they will try doing 5,000 homes and then don't get the results. So they blow their budget and then have nothing to work with, and then you just give up. I always say it's better to start small and scale up than it is to scale back. If we're committed to really fine tuning what we're doing and getting a system that works, you have to start and scale up and build off of that and build off those successes. And if you haven't farmed before and you don't know what to do, you don't know what works, what doesn't work, and you just go out there and then it doesn't work, then it's easy to quit. So we see a lot of agents just giving up before they get the results. And if there's that book, 6 Feet from Gold, it's just like that, where a lot of agents they're just almost there. They're almost starting to get results, and then they give up, or they get squirrel syndrome and they're off to the next best thing and the next best shiny object, and they're not committed to it. The agents who are committed and have a plan, who think long-term but act short-term, are the ones who will start to see a lot more success a lot quicker.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense that would be the case. So what about the agent that says, okay, I'm all in, I'm going to farm. I'm going to follow your strategies. I'm going to be online and offline. I'm going to think about the community first. I'm going to add value to people. I'm going to be visible. I'm going to prospect. I'm going to educate. I'm going to do all these things that are genius. And it's 60 days in and they got nothing. And they're starting to question, is this working? What would you tell them?
So I'd start by saying, start with a metric that you can measure and use that as your measuring tool. So rather than just say, am I getting deals? It's not just, am I getting deals? It's, am I building relationships and am I building a database? And again, traditional farming is getting your name out there and not focus on building your database. So if you're not building a database, if you're not getting people's names, you're not getting their information, you're not getting a way to follow up with them, that's where you're going to want to relook at it. So my focus is say, hey, how many people do I need to follow up with to get a transaction? So I generally say between 40 and 50 people in my database to one transaction. So then my focus is not just going, I'm not going to focus on, am I getting a deal? It's how many people do I need to add to my database so that I can follow up with effectively, and not 50 people that I'm sending stuff to. It's people that I can get to put their hand up so that I actually have permission to follow up with them. If you focus on that, if you build it, they will come. If you get those people and you build the relationships with them, the deals will come. If you're 60 days in, you may want to look at your strategies. And if you don't have a database, then you want to look at what am I doing, what's not working, and kind of fine tune it.
It sounds like I love this, long-term and short-term. The way we win long-term is we close deals. The way we win short-term is set some sort of measurement for how do I win today?
Exactly.
Did I build a relationship? That could be it. Did I grow my relationship with one person today? Or it could be knock on 15 doors. Who knows? You'll figure out what that means. But to keep score today so that you can keep score in the future, and knowing what those two scores need to be, it's like football. I mean, I know you're Canadian and you're probably into the hockey, but it would be like football. We don't score a touchdown on every play, but if we gain yards, if we pick up 2 or 3 yards, then we're succeeding. So it's having the right perspective about in the moment, but then long term as well. Yeah. Well, what would be the big piece of advice? The one that you teach people, but they don't listen to you. They don't remember it. It's the thing you're most passionate about. What is that piece of advice?
Philosophically or strategy? You tell me. Because there's
whatever.
Different.
Yeah.
Really, for me, it is that I'd be willing to hyper focus, and we see this happen all the time, where agents are afraid of missing out, and power comes when you are hyper focused, and when you can get the results in a smaller area, you get much better. So I would say I'd rather have 5 signs in one neighborhood than one sign in 5 neighborhoods. So when you're spreading yourself out too far, you've got going an hour this way, an hour this way, an hour this way to get deals, you're not getting the same results. So you have to think, how can I double up on my efforts in a smaller area so that people see me and get more attention to what I'm doing? And if you're willing to do that, that is when you're going to have the powerful business. Again, I've interviewed hundreds of agents on my podcast, and the ones who are really focused on saying, I'm going to work this area, I'm not going to work outside of that area, I'm really committed to that, have way better businesses than the agents who are going, well, I might get a deal over here, I might get a deal over here, I might get a deal here. And it's just, so stay focused and know that if you do it well, there's going to be much better results in the long run.
Know your plays and run those, and don't get distracted. That's what I'm hearing from you.
Yep.
Ryan, this is good stuff. I'm so thankful you'd spend some time with us today. Thank you so much. Best of luck.
Awesome. Thank you.